and welcome to Love Thy Number. I am super excited tonight because I have, I call them like my other kids, but they are friends, wonderful souls in their own right, and I am proud to introduce on the show today, Seth Creekmore and Kevin
Smith.
I've only been through 40 hours of training with you. You're just Kevin with a beard.
It's a complicated name. It's understandable to forget.
So difficult.
Yeah. Kevin Smith. Well, that's see, next time I will do my work ahead of time. But I actually didn't even know Kevin was going to get to be here at our house tonight. So a lot of this is going to be on the fly. But I am honored to have you guys here. I will say that we met about a year ago. No, it hadn't been that long ago.
It's been within the year.
Yeah, within the year. Mm-hmm. We all went through an Enneagram applications training certification course. There were about 24 of us, I think, and 40 intense hours of getting to know ourselves and getting to know each other. So welcome, guys. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Kevin, you hail from Kennesaw.
No, I do. I live near Kennesaw. I'm not even sure what the city is. Kennesaw, Acworth, Woodstock area. It's Wade Green Road issue or area.
Way up there. Mm-hmm. But originally, where are you from?
Chattanooga. Well, north of Chattanooga in Hickson.
All right.
Spelled with an X, not a C and a K.
Oh, so you're not a hick. Not a hick. And Seth is from the great state of Indiana.
Yes. There's more than corn in Indiana. Is our state song.
There's more than corn.
No, yeah, right in the Goshen South Bend area. Mayor Pete Buttigieg is going for president, and he is the mayor of South Bend. So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
So let's talk about not politics and things that might be interesting to our audience. So I'm just going to dive right in and ask if you would just share how you came across the Enneagram. And I'll start with Kevin and ask you to kind of give me a background about how you discovered it and how easy or difficult was it to discover your type?
My type is 5 with a heavy 4-wing. I'm very influenced by my 4-wing. And so that is how I came across the Enneagram. I took a deep dive into some research, came across a name called Gurdjieff. I won't go into too much detail about Gurdjieff Creek, but the Enneagram popped out of those researches and studies, and I became fascinated by it and began studying it.
And pretty quickly you determined
I came across the Riso Hudson book, Personality Types, and when I thumbed through it and read some of them, actually I found that a little bit by accident. When I saw the Enneagram on it, I thought, well, this correlates with my research, so I'm going to look at the book. And as I picked it up and started running through some of the types, I got to 5, and it was like somebody read my mind.
Yeah. Right.
So and particularly as a 5, not everybody can understand my mind. So to find somebody who can really articulate what's going on within my own psyche, to the point where it felt like they were a fly on the wall through my whole life, I thought, wow, this is a pretty phenomenal model.
And was it a relief to you? It was to me to discover the things that you were saying, that somebody basically knew what was going on in your mind.
Well, you guys know this, that the 5 is often referred to as the feeling like an alien. And so, yes, it felt a little bit less like an alien when somebody could speak my language. It was a unique experience.
And so this was about 10 years ago, a little more?
Let's see, I think it was about 2009, so 10 years ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good math. Yep. Very good. And Seth is Creekmore, but people call him Creek.
Yes.
So same question.
So I was introduced to it by a common friend, Seth Abram.
Seth Abram, who is not here with us today.
No, unfortunately, and he's extremely jealous that he's not.
We'll save you a piece of pie.
Yes, there you go. So he introduced it to me a long time ago, and it nailed me right away. It was like a really quick test. I do not suggest people do that, but it was a really quick test and it nailed me, and it's like, oh, this is very strange. And then kind of from there, I forgot about it pretty much. And then, Seth started getting into it a little bit more, and we started talking over the phone, and then just, I'm not even sure how it all happened, but then all of a sudden that's all we ever talk about. And yes.
Because it's Seth.
Yes. And that's like 60% of the content that I read and listen to.
And we're grateful.
Yes.
He's a wealth of knowledge and
indeed
a great friend in person.
Mm-hmm.
So both of you have very different fields that you're working in, or you have. Kevin, you come from a background in psychology, and Seth, Creekmore, I'm just going to call you Seth.
Whatever.
When I talk about you and Seth, I'll tell people, well, the Seths are coming to town. So,
that works.
Or the boys are coming. And my mom knows when I say that. They're like, oh, the Seths are coming.
Oh, that makes me feel good.
Well, you have your own room upstairs.
Exactly.
It's like, it's up in Seth's room.
Yeah.
See, now you derailed me. Oh, okay. So you have a music background.
Yes.
You are an amazing singer-songwriter.
I do that.
You do that well. You do that well.
Yes. Find music wherever it resides.
So you and Kevin met in this class and kind of clicked. Why is that?
Well, you came in a day after for, I think, you missed like the first session, I believe.
Yeah, it's usually a debate I have inside myself if I show up anywhere, so it's not surprising that I didn't show up at the right time.
And honestly, when you showed up, I was like, and this guy's sitting right next to me. I'm not sure I like this. He's encroaching on my personal space.
And he smells funny.
Yeah. I don't know what, I just kind of had a sensation that we would get along, so I don't know. That's
I
the
think
extent of it.
I love that. I think the Enneagram brings different people into the same world. So we began to speak a common language. And, Kevin says he has a 4-wing, and you are a type 4. Did we disclose that?
Oh, we did not.
Did we not?
Yes,
Is
4
it okay?
with a 5. It's a 4 with a 5, yeah.
Wow. So 5 with 4 and 4 with 5. And these are wings that we're talking about. I don't talk a lot about the wings. Well, I talk about the instincts more, but yeah, I know I'm a 7 with an 8 wing. So if there is a place that I need to show up, I will be there because I got to know what's going on, and you have to think about it and discuss. Yeah. So that's interesting. You waited a day to come in. But joking aside, I would like to just kind of step back from the mic for a moment. And Kevin, we both love Nan Henson. Yeah. I love Nan. She's
an amazing woman.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And happy birthday today. Of course, when this airs, it won't be your birthday, but she has just been such a support and an encouragement and a friend and many, many other words we could use to describe Nan. But you have a particular closeness to her. And if it's not too much, could I just let you take a charge of this and share that story?
Yes, of course. Nan has been an instrumental part of my growth in the last year. As I said before, I was studying the Enneagram for 10 years. Not a lot of progress was made other than intellectual. Nan is instrumental in me shifting from my head into my heart, and it was a rough start when I first met her. I won't go into too much detail, but what introduced me to Nan was seeking help through a broken relationship. And Nan and I spoke on the phone at first, and then I agreed to meet with her in person a time or two. There was a separation. I was married. There was a separation, and in that period of time, I was led to believe that we would reconcile the relationship. After meeting with Nan a time or two, I got served divorce papers, which was catastrophic to me. We had blended 5 children together, and what that would mean for our future was very difficult for me to wrap my head around. And was already at a place where I was not healthy in my mind. So after meeting with Nan, which I loved, meeting with her and getting to know her, I kind of went dark for about a week, maybe a little more. And during that time period where Nan didn't really know what was going on with me, I had attempted suicide. I took 250 milligrams of morphine and shouldn't be here today. when I got out of recovery from that experience, I called Nan and told her, and Nan is a 2 for those listening that don't know. It was just nothing but warm, a blanket of love that she put over me. And we met for the following several months individually, and then I attended her workshops. I'd already scheduled her workshop. So when I showed up to her workshop and then I met with her individually, she walked me through a lot of the things that were tripping me up and knew my type better than I knew. Knew how, more importantly, I think, knew how to respond to my type in a way that would make me feel welcome and not pressured. 5s, and particularly me, can be a little sensitive toward anybody pushing me in a direction I don't want to go. What I know in my head, but moving it down, what they say, 18 inches into my heart is a bigger difference. And I thought I knew what that meant too, but I didn't.
Can I just interject right there?
Yes.
For those who might not know exactly, there are 3 triads, and the type 5 that Kevin is in is considered the head triad. And so the connection to the heart is a further journey than it would be for those that are naturally in the heart space, which Nan is in the heart space.
Very much.
The 2s are in the heart space. So I just wanted to explain that. So because for the 5s, it so much depends on the information, the facts, right?
Yeah.
And not the feelings as much. And so take up from there.
Well, and it was an interesting combination because Nan is a 2, which really puts a lot of emphasis on love and serving and acting in that capacity. And for a 5, they really put a lot of emphasis on the brain and the intellect part of it and thinking. And so where I'm going over the top in my thinking center, she's going over the top in her heart center. And so we met in the middle. And she gave me compliment after compliment, which I don't think was flattery in the slightest. Nan was talking about my skills as a 5 and the way I think, and appealed to, I don't think, my ego, because Nan is, anybody that knows her knows, Nan is an expert at parsing out what's ego and what's encouragement. And being able to just really be a boon to those people who need it most without appealing to an egoic center. And so she kind of swayed me from one direction into the other, and I was able to move. But it was, I don't know how to say it any more than with expertise. She handled me with kid gloves from the heart.
Well, I'm beyond grateful, because having you in the class and not knowing any of this story, the way you were able to process the information that she shared in the certification course fascinated me, because and from my number, where I go, and I have mixed feelings about this, where I don't like to say where we go in strength or stress, because we go all over the board. But 5 is a landing place for me to take the knowledge and be able to, hone in on the one thing instead of all the things that the 7s want to do. So I loved the way you were able to watch you process the information and to focus was amazing. You're the first 5 I've had on my podcast. I know some 5s. You're not the only 5, but it's a fascinating type because they get, I think people get confused with the need to withdraw, that it's not a personal, it's not like I don't like you. It's that needing to have your space and the headspace, for one thing, that you're not just going to come out and say, oh, I have an idea, and not have processed all the angles of it. Am I right?
That's very true. Yeah.
Yes. So I am grateful that you're here.
And it can come with, thank you, Danae. Thank you for that. It's also, I think, part of things that are misunderstood about 5s is when they need their space to process and to think. A lot of times they distance themselves from other people, and the ways they distance themselves, they're not quite, I wasn't completely aware of how I was distancing myself. And so when I got done processing everything I needed to think about, I would then come back to share what I'd come up with, the conclusions I'd drawn, and then there's nobody there. Or if they are, they're frustrated with me because I've done a lot of damage from the way I'd presented my need to have distance and space to process. And that's where Nan was able to say these things after working with me for some time. She kind of sat back a little bit and looked at me, and she's like, I want to say something. And I said, go ahead, I trust you. And at the first time I met her, she said, you're going to trust me, but it's going to take some time. And I understand that, so take your time. And then at this point, I told her I trust her, and she said, sometimes you can come across a little... and she wasn't hesitating because she didn't have the word. She was reading me.
Because she's kind.
And she said, condescending?
Yes.
And I went, ouch, touche, Nan. It's very true.
And I didn't mean to resound like, yes, you do. I didn't mean that, but that's...
You've reached your 5 today.
But that's the problem, because I do have 5s in my life. And honestly, before I knew more about the Enneagram that went beyond my type, because when I first discovered the Enneagram, it was like, 7s, this is all I need to know. Like, and I'll tell you, this is funny. When I grew up in Texas, everybody outside of Texas had world geography, but we had Texas geography. It was like, that's all I need to know. So I am so illiterate on world geography. Oh my gosh, I don't know where anything is. So I even have trouble with the perimeter. But I digress. Inside, outside the perimeter is very confusing. But a good friend of mine who's a 5, I just thought, because suddenly he would go very quiet. And I thought, I've said something wrong. I don't know what it is. And anyways, honestly, the Enneagram has helped so very much learning about all of the types, but to understand that, and with 9s, the withdrawing is nothing personal. It's not. And it's something to be respected, because you're not going to share information that you just, might have an idea about. You have researched, and I totally admire that when you come forth with a subject, you pretty much know what you're talking about, where a lot of people do not.
I'll at least convince you that I do.
Well, okay. Either way.
Most of the withdrawing is, how am I going to present this to where people accept me and I can convince them I'm an expert in it.
Oh, there's the levels of health. And like Doug said earlier, that I'm on the pathological level, but I may have come up one.
Some people might be able to relate to the withdrawing aspect by, if you think about opting out on an automatic withdrawal or renewal from a credit card function. So if you're clicking on the opt-out, that's what 5s are always doing. They're always clicking on the opt-out. And then they might do a one-time swipe, but they don't want to repeat withdrawal.
Wow, that's a great analogy.
I resonate with that.
Does that resonate, Creek?
It's so fascinating that you guys are 5-4 and 4-5. So, Creek.
Yes.
Talk to me.
What do you want to know?
I want to know, now that you understand what it is to be the awesome type of a 4, which has taken me a long time to say that, because I was afraid of 4s. As you know.
Me too.
You too?
Yeah, terrified.
Look, you're the one who I've quoted you before and has really helped open up the world of not being afraid of all the emotions, because 7s have a very short, we have a half range of emotions, as they say, I think in our unhealthy state, because we tend to avoid hard emotions. And I've learned to not say, for the most part, I don't say negative emotions anymore. They're difficult. Some of them are for me difficult, but you helped me see, no, I'm not afraid to go. If you're having a melancholy or a sad day, I'll sit with you and not try to fix it for me.
Something Seth Abram, we've talked about before, is the difference between emotions and feelings. And everyone has all the emotions, but only some of us feel them. And when you don't actually sit there and feel your emotions, you're either just perpetuating a cycle of an emotion that has technically already passed, but you just keep bringing it up. Or if you cease to process that emotion, then it's just going to keep coming back up. And I was just talking actually with my dad earlier today about emotions are often equated with something that is, well, at least for a 4, it's more that you are the emotion, you don't have emotions. And I think with everyone, it's hard to differentiate yourself. You're like, I'm sad, and versus I'm experiencing sadness. But that emotional intelligence, that heart center, it's an intelligence. It's trying to tell you something.
Right.
And whether it's sadness, fear, or anger, or whatever other shade of those emotions that you have, it is telling you something. And for you to respect yourself and respect that emotion enough to sit with it for a couple minutes, and just listen and ask it, what you trying to tell me? Like, what's going on here? Because it's not trying to destroy you. In fact, it's trying to help you survive. So why are we fighting ourselves to, does that make sense?
It does. It's still something I'm reading about. I'm not ignoring as much, but it's when what you said, you process and you think with your heart. Didn't you just say that?
Basically.
Something.
Yeah. Feel it.
Yes. And
feel the emotion. Yeah.
I know. For me, I want to say, okay, here's what it is. I know I'm going to be past this at some point. Let me go ahead and get there now, because this is not comfortable. And I've talked about this before. Grief is a very difficult thing. It's not that I don't get sad and feel the loss and feel the pain, but I find myself crying at things that are odd to cry at sometimes, and then have difficulty feeling the grief when it's real personal. So when it's not personal, I can cry at a movie or a concert or whatever. But if it's personal, then I need that to not, I feel like I need it to not reside in my heart. And you're saying, no, it needs to reside there. And that's where it needs to be processed.
Yeah. You need to pay attention to it. And the crying at the movies, the crying at the concerts, those are overflows of undealt with grief in a lot of ways. A lot of times when I'm watching a movie, so I was watching Friends the other month, and
Friends.
This is not a confessional, Creek.
Okay. I thoroughly enjoy Friends.
I do too.
The rest of us are watching Game of Thrones or whatever.
I haven't watched Game of Thrones.
I just pulled that out.
No, but there's just moments that aren't supposed to be emotional moments that all of a sudden I'm like, oh crap, I'm about ready to cry. And why am I crying? Because it's touching on something that maybe I don't feel like I ever got. Like maybe I was listened to or I was accepted. Like I'm sensing that acceptance in the scene. And I'm like, oh, that got me. So like in everything, it's just because the emotion you're experiencing is not always related to the thing at hand. And to find that common thread between the two situations is presence, is to sit there and let it show you something.
So again, I'm going to misquote you, but you you said something. I'm not sadness. I'm not sad. I'm feeling to distinguish between the emotion of and I am a sad person.
Right. Yeah. It's not that. I mean, a lot of your practice in the Enneagram, the work within the Enneagram it's about becoming non-attached.
Oh, yes. Yes.
To the identity of I am this, I am not this, because both of those statements are identity statements.
Absolutely. Yes.
And by saying I am this, you're also giving an I am not statement. So it's finding this third way of saying yes to this. Like all of this is the thing that I'm experiencing right now in this infinite moment. And so to take that, and I am now, my brain is lost on where I'm going with this, but
I feel like I'm going to have to pay you for a counseling session after this, and I might cry.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Okay.
Well, I've never thought about, because sometimes Doug and I'll be, stop that. These fours, they mess with my head. We'll be talking, about something, and I'll just start crying, and I'll say, this is a ridiculous moment to get emotional. I don't know what I'm crying over. And to hear what you said is, it's the undealt with thing that shows up when you're watching Friends or something.
Right. It sounds redundant to say feel your emotions, Creek, but you do mean stop and feel your emotions, because we're experiencing emotion, but we're not maybe feeling them. Is that what you're driving at?
Yeah, and I Seth has the details on this, the other Seth, but it's something along the lines of your brain only experiences emotions for 2 minutes, and then anything longer than that is just that perpetuation of that past emotion. So if you're able to sit and feel and really just like be curious about it, then that emotion will pass and you will learn something from it. And that doesn't mean that emotion won't come up again 30 seconds later. But in order to process that, you have to sit there and you have to feel it.
Otherwise, it accumulates?
It accumulates, and it'll come out in every other way.
So, Kevin, do you, having the 4 wing, do you find it's easier to process your emotions, to feel the emotions, as we're saying, even though it may not be, a logical thing? I'm not making you say, you're not Mr. Spock. This is from Star Trek. Star Trek in the 80s or something.
I'm familiar with all genres of Star Trek. I can appreciate all of them. I think, and that's probably a distinction between 4 with a 5 wing and 5 with a 4 wing. My 4 wing really can bite me in the backside, because I'll feel them maybe almost as much as Creek is talking about feeling emotion, but I get it locked in my head. And so then I don't think anybody can relate. I don't think anybody can understand what I'm feeling. And it's been validated over and over, not true, but in my mind it's been reinforced, is a better word than validated, that people do not understand my feelings because they don't understand my thoughts. And so if they can't understand how my mind works and what I'm going through mentally, they're not going to be able to understand what I'm going through emotionally either, so I don't even give them a chance. And so that isolated me more and more until, it spirals downward into decisions that seem rational at the time, but looking back are like, whoa, that was not a good place for me to be in. But the feeling side of it, sitting and processing it, has been very helpful for me. Nan gave me some golden counsel where she talked about, Kevin, it seems that you get your thoughts and your feelings confused to where you're feeling your thoughts and you're thinking your feelings. And if you could figure out how to reverse those, and I said, well, that's great. I mean, I agree with you, but how do I,
right.
How am I going to reverse this? This is, it's one thing to see the destination, but not the road in front of you to get there. And Nan said, the road is your body. You have to be more present in your body and come into your body more. And I would say if anything has happened in the last year, it has been a focus on the somatic experience or in the body center, which has helped. Which
has probably led you to your new path.
I think so, yes.
Yes. You're welcome to elaborate on that or just give the general overview. But wait, what I want to do is while I've got these guys here, I don't know the next time I'll ever have them here. That's not true. This will happen again. That was so negative. Where's the positive, girl? We will do this again. And we'll have Seth here, the other Seth. Excuse me. So I want to just take a quick break, but I want to keep going with this train of thought. So I'm just going to say for right now, this is going to be part 1. And then I want to pick up right now and pick up where we left off and just keep this going. So thank you for listening. If you don't listen to episode 2 and just hang in here with this one, I always want to end it with saying, I hope you truly get to know the joy of who you are by loving your own number. Hang with us. We'll be right back.